This is John Harding with Argano Interrel, and welcome to What is the Consolidation Dimension in FCC? What is the consolidation dimension? The consolidation dimension is one of the out-of-the-box dimensions in FCC that's used to facilitate the consolidation and the reporting of the consolidated data within FCC. Customers cannot add or remove members from it, and the members are based on the setup of the application. So if you're a multi-currency application, if you've enabled certain journal inputs, or you've enabled ownership, your consolidation dimension is going to look a little different than other customers. What does consolidation dimension do? It allows for the tracking and reporting of the consolidation process for each entity. When the consolidation is run, the process works its way up the consolidation dimension for each entity. So if you think about it, each entity has its own consolidation within the consolidation dimension before that data moves up to that entity's parent. There are some limited places where you can enter data to affect the consolidation within the application. All of those entry points above the lowest level are by journal entry only. Here we are taking a look at the consolidation dimension. One thing you'll notice is certain members have the word input after it. If you're allowed to input data there, it has the word input on it. Other than entity input, all of the other ones do require the use of a journal entry for tracking and auditability. Down below, we'll see here, these are for overrides. So if you've enabled foreign currency, you would get these override ones. And some of these other ones here, if we'll see here, these entity elimination, entity proportion, you'll only see these if you have ownership. And the translated currency input, contribution input, you're only going to get those if you enable that. Taking a quick look at the FCCS rate override and amount override, these are just members here where you enter data for the FX overrides. It's not consolidated or anything, it's just a storage point for this, for the out-of-the-box rules to run and do your FX overrides for you. Taking a look at the consolidation dimension, we're starting off with the children under entity total. Starting at the bottom of entity total, we'll see FCCS entity consolidation. When you're looking at a parent level entity, this is where the amount consolidating from the children would be. So if you have a parent, you've got children, this is where you would see the data for those children. FCCS entity total adjustment, this is where these are system calculated members when ownership is enabled, so you'll see these here. And then the total. Entity input, this is where data is loaded. So if you're loading data from a form, you're using data management to load data from your general ledger, it's all going to come into entity input. This is also where you will see regular journal entries are going to use entity input. Above that, we have translated currency input. This is a member where you're allowed to enter data for a currency in a different currency. So if you have an entity that's a euro and you want to do a US dollar journal entry, you would do that entry right here after configuring a data source member. At the top of that, we have FCCS entity total. This is where most of our reporting is done because this is all of the data contained on that entity. So if you think about it, that's where you would come in, do most of your reporting is almost always going to be at entity total. Moving up the consolidation dimension, we have entity total now down here at the bottom. So we take that information, and again, we have a journal entry member called parent input, and this is where we can input to the node between the parent and the child to impact parent total. Parent total is going to be at the parent currency, and parent input is going to again be at the parent currency. Above parent total, we have FCCS proportion, and FCCS proportion is simply for applications using ownership. It's the parent total times the percentage of ownership, and that'll give you the proportion. Once we have our proportion, we do our elimination, and elimination is the amount of data eliminated at that parent for intercompany. So we'll see the amount that eliminates for intercompany, and that'll all sum up to be our contribution, which is the contribution of this entity to its parent. Again, we have a journal member input of contribution input if you need to input to the contribution, which sums up to contribution total. Here we are just showing that the consolidation dimension works in conjunction with the currency dimension. And if we take a look here, our first column is going to be entity input and entity currency. And this is where entities input data at entity currency. Entity input and parent currency just shows that amount translated to the parent currency if it is different than the entity. And if we follow this line down here, we have entity total. Like we said, this is where we do most of our reporting. Entity total then moves over to proportion, and if there is ownership, it's going to take a percentage of that. In our case here, it's 100%. Here's the elimination. This is the amount that eliminates at parent currency as the consolidation from the child to the parent. And we can see here, this is a contribution. And contribution, again, is just simply proportion plus elimination equals contribution. Contribution on the children entity then moves over, as we talked about, to entity consolidation on the parent, and then the process repeats itself as you move up the hierarchy.